I choose to live a life I don't need to escape from. I'm creating still, yet I'm getting out of the house now. I love the vibrant colors and everything that was in Target. The inclusivity on the boards is something that I truly appreciate. I decided to incorporate some inclusivity, of course, into my drawings, and naturally I'm making yet another little sticker set for myself. So far I'm not selling these, but I got out, I wore some tribal gear. When I was in, I continued to work on this. I'm basically deciding that self-care includes artistry. It includes expressing myself in every way possible. I've discovered that if I draw faces in a different way than I usually draw them, that I have a more realistic approach in what comes out on the page. And I never even stopped to pay attention to this. So for me, if I start out with the nose, I end up with caricature, funny type, whimsical art. If I start out with eyes when I'm drawing a face, then I get a more realistic approach. I'd never thought about it this deeply before. So I stopped at Michael's and geared up on supplies. I smelled the fresh air, stopped by Wildflower, enjoyed the scenery, and that inspired me to do a little whimsical painting. But back to this, sketching and drawing is something that I've done off and on most of my life. I used to do it a lot with my mom as a kid. She would sit down with my brother and I, give us sketch pads, give us coloring books, give us whatever to create. I had everything from a loom to, little kitty sewing machine, just whatever it is that she thought we wanted for that, we had it. And I'm forever grateful to her for it. So just like in life, I don't do everything perfectly the first try. And I'm trying to make ears, noses, different parts of the face that don't look the same in every drawing. Yet I know I still have to have a signature. I did a little doodling even in a notebook, and I did more painting with watercolor. I love bright colors and layering after layering, repeated layering with the watercolors. That was a more dismal one. This is a happier one. And again, I did some whimsical drawing over these paintings, and I'm going to paint that part that I drew. So you'll see what I mean. When I start out with the eyes, it's just something in my brain clicks and gives me a more realistic result. I have a more realistic approach in my pencil strokes. I don't know why. It could be what I was talking about the other night too with my parents. So I don't know, my dad was saying something about how people can look drastically different than they did when they were young. And I said, well, usually you can look at a person from birth to like old age, for instance, and one thing that'll remain pretty much the same is the eyes. The eye color may darken a little bit. There might be wrinkles and crow's feet and things like that as we age. But unless there's like an eye injury or a person becomes blind, I've noticed that typically I can see a photograph, for example, of someone as an infant, and let's say this someone is a more seasoned person, like in their 70s, 80s, 90s, and I'll go, yeah, that is the so-and-so is a baby. And I have to fortify my body and eat nutritiously as I tell these tales and draw and paint. So I usually start out with the nose, but when I start out with the nose and drawing, something happens and it ends up being whimsical. Whereas on this particular day, when I started out with the eyes, this was not the case. I love that I discovered this about myself. So that's really what self-care is. It's a part of self-mastery, self-discovery, not settling for the same old methods, the same old ways of life. And I always say settling's for suckers. It is ridiculous to settle for anything in any aspect of life, whether it's work, relationships, art, anything. Don't settle. Don't do things the same way all the time. Mix it up. Settling will just make you bored to death. Yes, I'm drinking water. Vibing on my energy. So, yes, I'm singing my own part of my song. I decided to do more of these black ink over pencil drawings. I love to use these in my planner sometimes and mix them up with stickers that I've purchased. Again, don't settle. And this is how I started out what you're seeing me draw up today. I started with those already prepared, drawn beforehand. So anyways, you can see, look at that. The lines in the face, the detail of the eyes and the ears, the nose. My eyebrows that I draw are even more realistic and thicker. And yes, I'm envious of anyone with thick eyebrows. I've never had thick eyebrows. I wish I had had thick eyebrows, but I've never had that. Again, if I ever share a baby photo, you'll see what I mean. A toddler photo, anything. When I became an adolescent and started wearing makeup, I would put mascara over my eyebrows. Like I would kind of comb the mascara in so that my eyebrows would look thicker than they were. So yeah, I have more realistic hairlines. And is this the whole face? No, because again, I'm using Avery stickers or labels. I wanted to point out something. So anyone that saw this at the top and they're like, that looks vaguely familiar. My inspiration was this sticker right here. I'm going to include a link in the description box so that if you love this sticker that says Just Blessed, you can purchase that from the company. Again, I give credit where credit's due. If an idea that I draw up or paint or whatever is not originally mine and I'm using something as a reference, I say it, and I think it's important that all artists do that. So that's the reference. I didn't want to do it exactly alike. I just wanted to kind of have fun with it, and I did. So those are the ladies that I drew and inked up. Meanwhile, I decided to do a little bit more drawing and go for the eyes again, but do, again, a different approach. Not settling, being selective about what I do, yes, but trying different methods and ways of creativity. I want to say something. So I curate a lot of images, whether it's things that I doodle and draw on my own or other people's artwork, stickers, paintings, etc. In that curation, I think is what people think of when it comes to self-care. You're curating a life that includes a museum of artifacts, if you will. So like massages, facials, girls' night out, guys' night, poker night, family game night, vacations, trips. If you were to put your life in a museum on display, you're curating different things. And all of that's fine and it's a part of self-care, but that's not the totality of self-care. That's not the totality of having a life. And if you're going into deep debt doing these things, that's not self-care either. Self-care includes being as healthy as possible, and that includes financial health. So I just want to put that out there as I'm drawing this, that part of my self-care and my curation of self-care for me is to create what's inside of my head, get that out onto some paper, play with those images, play with the music, play with the words, play with whatever my fingers do in the fiber arts or in jewelry making or whatever. And let that be a representation of what I was feeling that day. Or let that be a representation of something that I'm trying to say, some kind of message. In my artwork, especially the drawings, the doodles, the sketches, the paintings, what I'm trying to say is that all people have the right to a chance at a great life. It's not about surviving, it's about thriving. Part of how I thrive is this. Part of how someone else thrives, if I can just talk, maybe something else. You know, it might be gardening in a flower garden, picking vegetables, which I'd love to do both of those. But you know, I live in the desert, it's hot. It might be drag racing, safely of course. It might be anything else, making pottery, cooking. Just curate a life and create a life that you don't feel like you've got to like just escape all the time. I saw a meme that said something to that effect. I want to get it exactly, so I'm going to read it. It says, true self-care is not soft baths and chocolate cake. It is making the choice to build a life you don't need to regularly escape from. It really is that. When I read that meme, it spoke to me. I wrote it down. I want to regularly remember that. Because yeah, I can go give myself a facial and feel better, but I can also do this and feel better. Another thing that I can do is go into the recesses of my mind and use my imagination just to think about some of the things I would love to do with my own life. Still, even at this stage and age, you're never too old to dream. You're never too old to make plans regarding those dreams, have some goals, allow some of that to come to fruition. I love doing that as I stare at my snow globe. And right now, so much in our world is dismantling, but one thing I know is I have my faith in God, and I have myself. I look around me, and I know that no matter what's going on, I'm still going to be okay. And that's part of my self-care. Thank you for watching. If this video resonated with you, click like, share, subscribe, tell a friend about the channel. Thanks so much.